just practice and kind of do that little boot camp that a lot of teams like to do.
All right, we're into the draft for game number 1 of SK Gaming versus Cyclone. Suijay Fortress has been taken off the board right away.
Yeah, Fortress is a common ban for EU. They like to take it off the board immediately. Cyclone here will probably take away the Lance or Lyra here. There's a lot of options that SK can do, but I know they'll prefer the Adagio or Lance. So let's see what Cyclone decides to take away from SK and deny them.
Yeah, I think the a Lyra ban is very likely because both of these teams have Lyra as one of their most played heroes. So it should be a highly contested pick between both of them.
Oh, it's going to be the Lance.
So they decide to take Lance, which is really smart. I think Cyclone has done their homework because SK excels on Lance because they can lane the Lance, etc. So as expected, they're going to pick up that Lyra since it's very strong, especially with Kavalifar on that weapon-powered melee hero like Rona, Blackfeather, etc. So Cyclone here, they don't prioritize Gwen, so I think they might take a Vox here or Adagio. Yeah, they're going to take the Adagio here. They probably will ban a key weapon-powered melee that counters Adagio, so maybe Taka or potentially Blackfeather. Let's see what they decide.
I would actually expect a Samuel ban, perhaps
Samuel
from Cyclone, because
okay.
The Samuel Lyra has been so strong, but they're going to go ahead take away the Rona. One of the specialties of SK Gaming.
They may yet pick up a Samuel in their second rotation to stop SK as well. We'll have to see. I want to touch on that Lyra pick again, though, because Bacon, you were talking about banning it. Do you think maybe that would have been the right call, given how strong it is with the kinds of carries that SK likes to run?
I don't know if it's necessarily the right call. I was only expecting it because it is such a highly contested pick between both of these teams. It's the most played pick for SK and the second most played for Cyclone. So that's the only reason I was really kind of expecting the ban.
All right, well, Cyclone, they got another pick coming up here. Suijay with 2 of these melee carries off the board. They're going to go for a Kestrel.
Yeah, Kestrel is good against Lyra since there's no frontline. So SK will have to pick someone that's tanky to frontline against a potentially weapon or even CP Kestrel. They may opt for Samuel here because they do play Samuel and Scarf, so they're going to go for Sam, which is a great pick into Adagio. Again, he's not a really good frontline like Lyra. He's a kind of a backside healer. And they're going to probably round it out with someone tanky in the front line. So a really powerful weapon power melee. Oh, I guess not. It's going to go Gwen. This is actually the EA meta here. Samuel, Gwen, Lyra. So this is very strong. So Cyclone needs to pick an assassin and probably either CP double range with a CP Kestrel or pick an assassin and go weapon Kestrel here.
Yeah, we've seen Taka be used as a counter to Samuel very frequently. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that does come out for Cyclone here. But it's a matter of, do they play the Taka? That's one of the big questions for a lot of these teams now is, do you have a player who is an expert on this Taka to be able to have this counter pick?
Absolutely is. And Cyclone, they have a few options, but Taka definitely a strong one. SK Gaming, you said this is sort of the EA meta. Do you think that they've been reading up on that, or do you think this is
I think with how Fnatic played that comp so well, right? I think they're adapting now, which is great to see. So they're going to go with an assassin. So the key here with Taka, it's really strong with the support Adagio. They need to make sure that Taka stays ahead, either the same level parity or is ahead. If Taka falls behind a Samuel and Samuel has Frostburn, Eve, etc., then Taka actually is a risk. So they need to make sure they win that early game, and when Taka gets level 6, they need to push that power spike really hard.
I have to admit, Cyclone is a very explosive team. Normally, like they do things like that Jewel that we saw the first week of the first split. They bring out these things which are very aggressive and they just jump on you and make things happen. Taka seems like it fits their play style. It is definitely about player performance too, though. How does this composition that's coming out, the East Asia meta, like you were putting it, from SK's side, actually function? How do they win games?
Yeah, so Samuel with Frostburn and Gwen has a slow, and then Lyra heal. They can just poke for days and force Cyclone to make a mistake or a bad engagement. So Cyclone needs to dive with Taka, and then Kestrel needs to follow up. However, if Samuel has really solid Bs, and he Bs in the right direction in terms of being aggressive or defensive, and they play into his B, then they're going to lose every single engagement. Because it's really down to the Samuel here and how he's going to play, because that's going to set up Gwen to then clean up.
I think it's really interesting, Bacon, you're talking about sort of the stats whilst we're in that game, who's been picked a lot for these teams. It definitely felt like Cyclone was not trying to stop SK from doing very much, other than the Rona, which is probably smart. That's the one you definitely got to stop them from doing. But, it's interesting, the decision to, rather than, stop them from playing what they're comfortable on, to just try and counter it. Cyclone, I feel like that shows a confidence, right?
Well, it's a bit of a confidence, also familiarity, because both of these teams, the Lyra Samuel, are within their top. 2 of their 3 most picked on both sides is Lyra Samuel. So it's a composition that both sides are very comfortable with. We've been seeing it more and more over the past couple of weeks. And so, is this going to be the answer? We've seen Taka counter the Samuel multiple times last week in Europe especially. So I think Cyclone did their homework here.
All right, who's going to take this one home?
I think the composition from Cyclone, it will do a really good job of countering out what SK has.
Cyclone wins the early game, they're going to take it away. If they don't, they're going to lose.
All right, let's see if they can win that early game. We've got your casters, Jaws and Excoundrel.
Thank you very much, guys. And first game of the day, Cyclone and SK, with a pick that we've been seeing a little bit more frequently here, Excoundrel, in the Gwen in the lane.
Yeah, Gwen's definitely come back in. She's had an interesting build in the sense that she's gone for usually a tension bow, goes a lot of on-hit based on heroic perk. You're going to do a lot of burst damage with that first hit. But obviously, she's very adaptable. She can go that build if she thinks that the burst is going to be necessary, or she can go down the route of the Sorrow Blade, the Breaking Point, the classic kind of builds that we are expected to see on weapon power carries. But look at this early aggression coming out from Cyclone. As you'd expect, maybe start to put pressure on Tyra's. It's a very strong early jungle, though, Lyra and Samuel. So it might not be something that Radhar is willing to mess with until he hits, like, a certain level spike, or when he gets that Aftershock, potentially, if that's where he's going to be heading, or even the Storm Crown, which is more likely with the fact that he started the health. So there's plenty of options here for both of these squads. Definitely think that SK have got a good composition, but if the attacking can get rolling, Cyclone should be able to run away with it.
I mean, what they said on the desk as well was the fact that there's so many slows, and the poke potential from SK as well is extremely strong. So it's really going to have to rely on Radhar, his ability to actually get into some of these team fights, using that X-Retsu fairly aggressively, getting on top of the Samuel after he's using that Drifting Dark. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do in terms of team fights and how they're going to play the map as well in terms of rotations.
I think what's going to be really interesting to note here, George, is that usually with Taka, you often like someone to provide support for him when he chooses to go in with X-Retsu. Remember, it's an instantaneous gap closer. Got a little bit of a fight here with Tyra's just being a little over-aggressive. Level advantage does sit with the Taka right now. He is waiting to look to put some pressure on, but should just warded away by jetpacks. I think what you've got to keep an eye on is that usually Taka does like someone who can follow up on that immediate engage. But with the Adagio, all you do is you gift a fire as the X-Retsu's in, and that's all of the support that you need in the most case. And then while they're busy dealing with this Taka who's got a gift of fire applying to key targets, they're getting a lot of damage down onto them, you have Voldemar in the backline on this Kestrel, like hailing arrows down. It's a very solid way to play a team fight, and I'll have to see, if the Taka can get to a point where he's scary enough to be a threat by himself. This should be Cyclone just waltzing away with skirmishes and team fights.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to see why they're going so aggressively now. And in fact, you can see PT Lamb, he's been in this jungle like twice now. He's been in SK's jungle, just making sure he knows where they are. I think they've got a twig exactly where they are up in this lane. So he's going to take some of this farm away. And Waldemar really kind of safe in this lane on this Kestrel. That turret's going fairly low, though. Drifting Dark is going to be used to disengage. A lot of damage onto Waldemar as well. And Radhar is off to the sides. He's looking for maybe an entrance into this fight, but not level 6, meaning he can't really do all too much just yet.
Yeah, taking a bit of damage there. They do have that level advantage on Radhar right now. PT Lamb looking for the flank. The Scout Trap will pull him out, however. And now they're looking to go aggressive, Jaws.
Yeah, SK are going to follow this one up. Drifting Dark is going to come through. PT Lamb is on the wrong side of the map completely. And SK, they are going to pick up first blood. And he did get a few camps there taken away from SK, but that 400 goals bounty goes on to Tyras.
I definitely think taking first blood over a couple of battle camps is totally worth it now. There was a time in Vainglory where you would happily trade your life early on if you steal the opponent's backs away, because the gold value that you gain and deny from the opponent was often a net advantage for yourself. With that first blood being up on the table and the bounty being so important, it's not the case anymore, and I definitely think that SK have taken a good advantage here. Tyrants, but that's a risky back situation.
That was a very risky back, and Radhar says, hello, my friend, as gets a little bit of revenge for PT Lamb, does end up picking up that kill, and that's going to be pretty big for SK now, because look at the wave. Waldemar's going to be able to push this in and get a bit of damage down to this turret.
Yeah, if they could defend from this siege, though, SK might feel okay. It was definitely a needless kill. Oh, my word, Voldemar!
Tension bow! Kavalifar comes up pretty big.
That's insane damage. I think he might... I don't know who was tanking the turret. Was it Radhar or was it Voldemar? But my word, that damage was absolutely ridiculous. Kavalifar with the perfectly timed back to pick up the item spike. They've already sieged their first turret of the game as well. That was maybe a small mistake by PT Lamb. Allowed SK so much time to put damage onto that first tier turret. Damn. That is that's insane from SK. Really, really impressive. And obviously Cavalify coming straight back with that big item spike for the Gwen.
I mean, we've seen this so much in VIS over the last couple of days as well that I cast. It's Gwen, as soon as he picks up the tension bow, they always look to fight because it's such a massive power spike, and you can see how much damage it is to PT Lamb. They're going to steal away the front camp, and Radar's maybe in a little bit of trouble here. There's slows really coming into effect. He's going to get flared out as well, and there's the last shot. Cavalifar picking himself up another kill. This is going to be really, really a bit of a sticky situation for Cyclone right now, because with 2 kills on the Gwen, who's incredible in the early game, she's going to run away with it if they're not careful.
Especially with this tension bow, and actually the build makes a lot of sense into the composition they're facing. If they can get their clutches on the early game, they're going to have that advantage over the Taka, who kind of needs to get rolling. The burst damage is going to be super valuable against him, against this aftershock right now, because he's not built up any armor. So if he jumps in, he's going to be receiving as much damage realistically as he's going to be dealing out. So it's a really precarious situation for Attacker to jump into this situation where the Frostburn is there for Tyras. Obviously the Bright Bulwark slows and can stop his escape, and then you have that burst coming out from the Gwen. This is a great situation for SK to be in. And remember, this tension bow build isn't as heavily affected by Atlas Pauldrons, which is super popular in the meta right now. Tyras is dead already.
Like they want to go for a fight. Yeah, Tyra's got instantly blown up by Waldemar there, and Taka alike. They are going to boots after them. X-Retsu available in a couple of seconds. Jetpack's taking a little bit of damage. Cavalifar doesn't really want anything to do with this fight. X-Retsu in. They're going to go find another kill there. Waldemar picks up one. Cavalifar's going to have to retreat under his turret. That fountain will keep everybody healthy on the side of Cyclone. Nice 2 kills there picked up on, you could say, maybe a bit of an overextension from SK.
Absolutely. Cavalifar doing his best. He should be able to stop this siege on the turret right now. The rest of his team will come back him up. It might be the gold mine going over to Cyclone, however, as a reward that will allow them to claw their way back in terms of gold. They are now probably going to be just ahead of SK at this point in time, despite that great early advantage that SK had. You do have to respect the damage that comes out from Taka with the aftershock. It is pretty insane. I mean, I talked about it being almost as much burst coming back, not quite as much. Aftershock with Attacker, I mean, that's just, you know, once you get the X-Retsu in, you get that first basic attacker, it is pretty ridiculous how much damage you can output. And especially for Tyras, who didn't really have any shielding at that point, you can see now both Cavalifar and Tyras said, okay, we need to respect Taka. Go and invest in some tier 1 shielding. Both of them will now start to reduce that damage output. I think Suijay's said it's about 25% for just tier 1 shielding. So, you know, you'll reduce a huge amount of Taka's damage output by just having that on board. So that's great for SK. Will prevent some of that burst, but it did allow Taka to pick up a level 7 infusion if he wants to proc it right now, but he might leave that until at least level 8 or level 9. But he has it in his inventory for a fight, Jones.
He does indeed. We'll see if he wants to use it now, because the fight is going to happen. First Judgment comes out. Water on the back line gets insta-killed. Oblivion comes through as well. Doesn't hit anybody. Radhar is going to be able to pick up Gwen on the back line of that, but PT Lamb, he's got the healing and the sustain. Cyclone might be able to chase this one up. Radhar goes back in once more. He is going to find jetpacks. He's going to have to sprint away, as Tyras is going to just be able to fend off PT Lamb as well. SK Gaming and Cyclone right now trading 1 for 1, and what a telltale game this is going to be. These two teams are 1 point difference in the ladder right now as well.
Absolutely. Really important for seeding this game as well, because if Cyclone get knocked out or SK get knocked out now, they can be sure they're going to relinquish some of their placing on the ladder, which is so important, by the way. This VG8 placing is so important for their seeding going into the London Combined or Unified Live Championships, because you can skip the first day if you're top one or two seeds in your region. And that's great because it gives you more rest. You can scout out the competition. So every single game is incredibly important. None so more than this particular series. Both SK and Cyclone will be wanting to take this clean win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, SK Gaming, they are 21 points right now. Cyclone and 20. If Cyclone win this game at the moment in week 2, they will be ahead of SK. SK will swap down to 4th, so pretty big coming into this game. There's a fair amount on the table. I mean, Cyclone seem to just kind of want to play the long game now, finding these picks, finding these trades, and then get Kestrel to that point where she is almost insta-killing people with these glimmer shots, right?
Really? I don't know, man. I almost think the opposite. They've both invested in level 7 infusions. Waldemar just picked up a level 7 infusion himself as well. They want to fight, and they want to take it out now.
Does come through. That is going to be blocked by the Crucible. Tyra's taking a fair bit of damage. I was very worried for Cyclone there. That would have been absolutely devastating for their front line, but they do manage to escape. A nice hot fingers on PT Lamb will make sure they get out alive. 1 shot, 1 kill. Hurtling down the lane. Doesn't hit any member of SK, but you aren't wrong. 3 infusions already. pretty devastating match so far.
Everybody
Doesn't
wants
like
to
they
fight,
wanna
and they're
go in.
fighting right now again.
Oh god, it's never ending, Excoundrel. Kvalifar goes in and just gets a nice 3-man slow, and it does look like both teams are finally cooling down.
This looks like it's a good rotation by Cyclone, though. They kind of outplayed SK in some respect. They know they have the lane control. Not going to shove it up to the turret, though. They are afraid of an engage, despite having 2 infusions on their carries. Radhaz is about to drop out. He has got a coat of plates as well, Jaws, so that'll be pretty decent against preventing that burst damage coming out from Kvalifar. But take a spy over at Voldemar's item choices. He is going for the tension bow as well. He's picked up another piercing sphere. PT Lamb going in. Whoa,
They want to go in. Yeah, aggressive burst. He's going to find one. Radhar's going to jump on the back line. Tyra's in a lot of trouble there, but so is Jetpacks. He lobs a sigil over the wall for some healing. Waldemar's on his own right now. PT Lamb going very low. Finally gets the healing off. Radhar just cannot touch this front line of SK because they are just poking him out time and time again. Kvalifar doing a good job of that. 1 shot, 1 kill comes in. The X-Retsu as well, but Radhar once more just dip, duck, diving and dodging out of these fights. SK Gaming, Cyclone, no one has fallen just yet. It's just so insane, the dip out, in and out of these team fights.
It's so close as well, but PT Lamb able to provide that sustain, that zoning potential of his ultimate was so good as well. I do think Cyclone could have won that fight, though. And I'll tell you why. Actually, if Radhar had gone on to Jetpacks, who was stunned from the Verse of Judgment, they could have taken that healing source out of the fight right away. They could have got rid of that roam, got rid of the Lyra, and then they just had to deal with Kvalifar and Tyras. That was a missed opportunity in my books. I think they could have potentially clawed that fight and then got even more from it. And unfortunately, they decided to split focus. I believe Radhar went on to Tyras. Definitely think that Jetpacks was the easy target. A lot of people talk to me about when I play with them. I play with some members from XL when I sort of in the solo queue ladder, and they always say to me, you know, Excoundrel, just take a kill when you can get it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the roam player, it doesn't matter if it's the captain, just take a kill when you can get it. And I think that could have been a lesson learnt by Cyclone there. If they just picked up that kill, gave them the man advantage, they had the sustain from the Adagio regardless, could have potentially been a bit more devastating on SK's side if that had gone that way.
I mean, the big thing to notice as well, Jetpacks doesn't have a Crucible, he doesn't have a Reflex block, so he was going to get stunned. So yeah, I mean, following that one up would have been a sure win, at least in that team fight for Cyclone.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, George. No Crucible versus an Adagio. That's a really interesting prospect, you know, because you've got a rushed War Treads coming out, and they really value the movement speed and the kiting ability for this Samuel and this Gwen, which is
well, they're going to need it. Versus Judgment comes out, does stun at 1 once more. Jetpack's in a lot of trouble in that front line. Fountain is going to get popped. 1 shot, 1 kill is going to get avoided. SK Gaming, they are still chasing Cyclone. They're pushing back, and that healing source you just spoke about is working wonders for them right now as PT Lamb almost falls. Crucible comes out. It's finally going to get blocked, but no, Radhar actually on the back line. Almost goes down to that one. Crucible only just saving them.
How is no one getting killed in these situations? SK do come out on top. They manage to kite backwards, and actually, this throws up the discussion, Jaws. Do you need a Crucible if you can rush War Treads and just run out of the Adagio ultimate? If your composition is about kiting, regardless, you've got the Samuel and the Gwen. Do you need Crucible? Because that's a static ability. You could just pop War Treads and run out of it, and yes, okay, Jetpacks got locked in it, but it still meant that they won the fight. So they're doing something right in that respect. They value the movement speed of the War Treads, as Goldmine just goes over to Cyclone. They value the movement speed of the War Treads to get Kvalifar and Tyras into kiting positions that are better for them as a composition than actually having to brawl and block the Adagio ultimate outright. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. I think actually it plays to SK's strengths more than having gone a Crucible would have.
I mean, you're making a lot of sense, man. Like, Cyclone, they kind of went in. They got one stun off that. They stunned Jetpacks once more, but Kvalifar uses the buckshot, slows them all, and then they can't actually pursue the fight. So, I mean, heads up play coming out from Jetpacks, it seems. He is going to finish those War Treads, obviously, a lot earlier than most other people will, and having that ability to scout around the enemy jungle as well is just working out so well for him.
Breaking point completed for Kvalifar, but there is now a Atlas Pauldrons for Radhar, so you are going to get some value out of that Atlas Pauldrons build coming through. It looks like Voldemar's walking towards a Bone Saw, by the way. Something that we know is incredibly powerful on this current update. Now, I'll speak in a minute, because it looks like Jetpack's going in.
Yeah, SK Gaming, they are just going on the flank. That is going to be Drifting Dart coming through, as well as the Oblivion. The Oblivion hits one, and Drifting Dart doing a fair bit, but Radhar on the back line is going to get chunked out. Same with Kvalifar. How has no one died just yet? Radhar goes back in with the X-Retsu. 1 shot, 1 kill is going to hit somebody, but they trade 1 for 1 so far. Cyclone not wanting to chase this one any further, as Kvalifar and Tyras are just got their speedy boots on. They are going to be able to get out alive.
It is a weapon power Kestrel, Kamalafar, but you have to respect those active camo stuns. They still exist. They can still, turn you asunder, especially when there is a Taka on board as well. But regardless, SK still scraped through in a 1-for-1 that could have gone awfully wrong. That was a silence, I believe, that hit Jetpacks. I'm wondering whether... Oh, it's a null-wave gauntlet. PT Lamb, the null-wave gauntlet, stopped him from using War Treads, but they still managed to get out of that Adagio ultimate range. They then had the War Treads for afterwards. But that's a very interesting itemization choice coming out from PT Lamb. He's gone for that null wave gauntlet. It's not something that you see a lot of captains go, especially before their war treads, especially before, even investing in armor, that you can see a coat of plates is there for PT Lamb. That is basically saying, okay, we need to shut down the potential for them to kite with the war treads. We need to shut down potentially the healing from the fountain so that we can burst someone with this Taka and this build that we have on the Kestrel.
I mean, it's clear he almost heard what you said, and in fact, I'm going to interrupt myself as Radhar goes in once more. Versus Judgment comes down, doesn't find anybody. SK still kiting. Aces High will come out and smack PT Lamb as one shot, one kill is going to hit SK, but they are just going to back off quite easily. There's been so many fights where there has been so little kills, either 1-for-1 or just one kill, and then they go on ahead and take a turret. This is absolutely insane coming out from both these teams. I'm surprised we haven't seen more deaths across the board.
It's been so close. This is so interesting because these teams are obviously team fighting within inches of the same level of mastery of each other. And, obviously it's providing these really close affairs where 1 or 2 people are dying each time. There has not been a decisive swing for either squad. The gold is 100 apart. The kills are exactly the same. The only advantages that you're seeing is SK's control of the map because they've got 2 turrets down in the lane, which is the only thing that they have to hold over the Cyclone roster right now. Cyclone looking for a flank play. This is potentially more than they could ask for right now.
PT Lamb, is going forward here. Versus Judgment's up in about 5 seconds, so he can't use that. Aces High actually landing on Wardemar. He's getting blown up. Ends up falling as well. PT Lamb finally sends out the first, but he's going to go down before it even goes off. Kavalapar trades up the damage perfectly. Returns that to Sender. They are going to go towards this turret and take that one. SK Gaming turned that one around perfectly, and PT Lamb just seemed a little bit too far up without his verse.
No, what actually happened was Jetpacks. He completely shut down the engage. That was a good move by PT Lamb. You caught Samuel by himself. You locked him up with the fire. You were about to channel your ultimate, and suddenly Radhar's ex-Retsu gets blocked by the Bright Bulwark. Jetpack's Bright Bulwark stopped that engage from the Taka, and then SK were in that perfect position where they kite backwards. They get that range advantage. I mean, that was just a really heads-up use of the Bright Bulwark by Jetpack. Single-handedly kept his team, despite being caught almost with their trousers down because of that flank by the Adagio. That Bright Bulwark stopped that X-Retsu. The ability couldn't then be used, couldn't get onto a target, and unfortunately then Taka, who with no X-Retsu, is a sitting duck, and SK gladly took the shot.
I mean, another reason why Lyra is just so heavily prioritized in these drafts from pretty much everybody, EU, NA alike. Just such an incredible hero when you can get it going. And Bright Bulwark, we spoke about it before, pretty powerful ability sometimes, especially against someone like Radhar. They did take the Kraken, so SK are going to be walking it down that lane. And I think the Cyclone just kind of, falling a little bit here. They are going to try and get on somebody. Radhar X-Retsu into the back line. Drifting Dark backwards. There's a lot of damage. Aces High lands on PT Lamb, so they're going to be able to kite back. And Radhar just falls. One shot, one kill comes out a bit too late as PT Lamb does send out the first. That's a lot of damage, but it's not going to matter as Kavalapar picks up his second double kill. Waldemar might find Jetpack's Oblivion. Is going to make sure he does not. Triple kill comes through for Kavalapar. SK Gaming, they are going to take game number 1 in this best of 3. What fantastic play from both sides.
Yeah, again, didn't need the Crucible versus the Adagio. They played around. They said if the Adagio ultimate gets channeled, that's perfect. That means he's static. He's not providing support for the Taka. He's not using his Gift of Fire for a Taka that's going aggressive. We kite out of it, and we're very happy to let him channel that because it's no issue for us whatsoever. And SK just played exactly to their win conditions, kept their range against the Taka. They blocked the Taka on multiple occasions. Even if he found an engage, they kited backwards from him. And the fact that they got control of that early game, Jaws, meant that there was no snowballing, really, for the Taka. Just as Suijay said, if Cyclone didn't get that early lead and they didn't run with it, there was very little opportunity for them to then, sort of actually beat SK as the game progressed.
Well, I mean, that's your breakdown. We'll see what the guys over at the analyst desk want to say about this one. Fantastic game. Game number 2 will come up very shortly. And take it away, boys.
Thank you very much, guys. All right, so as you were saying earlier on, the Taka, yeah, great pick into that composition, but it relies on execution. We weren't sure if that was going to be there from them. I think based on a few of those initiations and the lack of follow-up, maybe some issues in the execution.
Yeah, there are two big things. When Taka got online, he got level 6. You saw that Cyclone was able to turn it back around, and at a 7-minute mark, they had 3 kills, even go lead, 16k on both sides. Secondly, Baltimore's build is very interesting. It's a attack speed base with tension bow, bonesaw, which 20% pierce, but Kestrel's Glimmer Shots has a 130% basic attack ratio, so it's actually better to build crit and land those crits with that burst along with Taka's burst. And they didn't even bother to build armor against him, because when you build crit and Sword Blade and a lot of weapon power in Kestrel, you're going to force your enemy team to build armor, because they have to build defense against Taka and Kestrel. But since he built that way, they just built health and shield. So it's kind of unfortunate to see that build, and they didn't get online enough and really follow through. Like, Cyclone's engages just needed a lot of work and better decisiveness.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned it when we saw the Bonesaw come out. Like, there's no armor on the set. The only armor was on Lyra, and it was just a tier 1 or tier 2 at that. So the Bonesaw item pickup kind of questionable in the given circumstances, but again, I think it all goes back to the execution.
Speaking of execution, let's have a look at a replay now. You can see a fight here around 16.5 minutes into the game. SK starting to push up here.
And again, this PT Lamb goes in, gets the Samuel caught out, gets the slow, but doesn't have the verse available. Is playing like he has the verse available, but it doesn't come out. And as was mentioned during the cast, the Bright Bulwark completely blocking Radha from getting involved was huge there. But that verse of Judgment was so key. There were so many times where PT Lamb was trying to make that connect. Even bought the Null Wave Gauntlet so that he could use the Null Wave onto the Lyra, prevent the War Treads coming out, but just never was able to make one of those big verses connect.
Also, assassins should be sneaky. They shouldn't be frontline like Alpha, like a warrior Rona would jump in face forward. Taka needed to come in at angle so that he would basically have Samuel use his Drifting Dark in weird positions and basically put him out of position. Because every time they were Drifting Dark in front of the team, because that's where then Cyclone was. They're all bunched together, and they needed to separate and come in at different angles. And if Baltimore built a burst build with Kestrel, his arrows would have done much more damage. And with Frostburn and Gwen slow, Baltimore couldn't even get close enough to even auto-attacking and start even shredding armor with the Bonesaw stacks. So again, it's itemization and a lack of decisive engagement that makes sense for the comp that they were trying to play.
Also, I do think we got to talk about a few things which were really excellent from SK. And one of those for me is the Lyra's play. Right, like Lyra, you were talking about this, Bacon. It's a huge pick for these teams for a reason. It complements, what happens in SK's team fights really well. And I think what happens in SK's team fights is they go in and out, they body block for each other, they play around positioning-wise a lot, and Lyra offers so much there.
Yeah, and again, using the Ward Treads as opposed to buying a Crucible to avoid the Verse of Judgment multiple times, it was just really well played all around from SK. Again, the execution was just on point.
And Tyrese on Samuel. I mean, he's an amazing Samuel. That's like his go-to hero. All right, so look at the draft is rounding out. Cyclone does get their Lance, which is their comfort pick. SK decides to lock in that Kestrel, so I wonder if they're going to lane it with Weapon and then put Tyrese on Samuel, because Samuel is actually decent into Lance depending on the composition. It's really a skill matchup at that point. So let's see what SK decides to ban here. They may decide to ban potentially an Assassin if they want to run Samuel. Because Taka with Lance or even Koshka with Lance is actually very strong against Samuel if they want to run that Samuel again.
All right,
they're going to ban it.
Yeah, it's going to end up getting banned here. So Bacon, one strong pick off the board here for these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the favorite picks, the comfort picks, being focused here by SK, taking away Lyra, Kestrel, and Samuel. That is the top 3 most played for Cyclone. So the Lance is up there, obviously, but not quite in that top 3. So we'll see what they decide to take away. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just another Rona ban from Cyclone, just to make sure that SK doesn't get it.
That being said, I mean, if Rona does get let through, how do the picks go? Maybe Adagio and then Rona for SK Gaming?
Could be. I'm not 100% sure if they would go for the Rona because they have the Kestrel already, and Kestrel Rona isn't something that they generally will run, but you never know.
Finn is a good pick here because Finn it's a good counter versus Lance. Not early, but definitely in the mid to late game when he gets his level 8 power spike, and his Quibble becomes a stun. So he actually is really good against Lance because Lance cannot reposition him. So Finn is actually a very decisive and quick pick from SK Gaming. So that means they want to play double range usually with Finn. You don't play a melee with Finn. Like it's gonna counter any melee heroes that Cyclone picks. So Cyclone has to go with potentially range heroes, or maybe Blackfeather could work as well, since he's pretty mobile enough to dodge Finn.
What do you think SK is trying to get here? Are they trying to get a Gwen?
Yeah, I think Gwen makes a lot of sense, because Gwen is going to be able to skedaddle out of the route. She's great with Kestrel, so I'm surprised Cyclone is not going to pick that Gwen up. Hopefully they do here, because she's really, really strong with Kestrel.
Yeah, they very well could still grab that Gwen. They could also go for the Vox if they want it. Vox is still considered one of the top laners alongside that Gwen, so it's just gonna come down to, I think, comfort at this point.
Baron and Pedo is actually not a bad comp, because Pedo is going to basically counter any melee heroes or assassins that want to play against Baron. It's going to force SK to go double range here with Ringo, and Ringo is actually not bad against Baron. It's just late game Baron's just a beast, but the CP Kestrel is going to put a lot of pressure onto them because of her range.
I'm mostly just surprised that it is Ringo and not Gwen from SK, but I feel like the Ringo has a better chance against the Baron, I guess.
Yeah, Ringo has a range of 6, that's why I'm assuming he has a Achilles heel slow that can like get onto Baron and force him to use his B defensively and get away. Gwen has a range of 5.3, so she will not last against Baron once Baron gets to the late game.
Yeah, I think that's the question, right? Is how much SK is putting their eggs in the early game basket or not. I think this is a more moderate approach. Like they're saying, yes, we're going to be stronger, maybe with this Ringo early on compared to your Baron, but later on, we're still going to do some amount, right? So how are they actually going to execute here with the Kestrel, Ringo, Finn? How do the team fights look if you want to kill that Baron at any point, like later than mid game?
Yeah, they're gonna push like they did last game. They're gonna get the first turret early, because Finn with double range, like CP Kestrel and Ringo, they can pressure Baron really hard early because they outrange Baron until he gets level 12 and he maxes his ult and he has a range of 7.4. So they're gonna try to get early turrets and then shut down the early game of Baron so he can't scale into the late game.
Not only that, but Kestrel is going to be very important. Getting those active camo traps down, trying to set up ambushes, that's going to be a big key for SK.
And on the other side with this Baron and Petal, these are heroes that have insane DPS. So later on in the game, Finn, I actually think he's not going to be as successful as a frontline, right? Like he's just going to get melted.
He's mostly there as the utility, being able to apply the fortified health to his allies and just have stuns to throw around. That's the primary purpose of the Finn in this composition.
What Cyclone needs to do is win the early game, win jungle hard, because Lance and Petal are pretty mobile. Finn is slow. He's going to stay in lane. He's not going to be able to rotate as fast as Lance and Petal can. And they need to just live in the jungle of CP Kestrel and stop her from coming to lane to put that lane pressure. And just kill her, take her jungle, and just shut her down. Like, they need to do that early game or they're going to lose.
Team fight-wise, you mentioned sort of burning the B on Baron with the Achilles shot. Is that something which could maybe set up for a forced accord? Like, because ultimately, like, Finn is about the forced accord in a lot of these fights. But, and you'd think, okay, that's a great way of catching Baron, who's so far away. The problem is with that overdrive on Baron's jump jets, it's so hard to actually do that.
Yeah, because when you force him to jump away, every auto attack he does actually decreases the jump jet cooldown by 15%. So if you make a Baron jump away, you can then get a pull because he won't have that jump up. If he's aggressively jumping into you, he's going to get that jump up right away.
All right, guys, who's going to win game number 2?
I think SK is going to be able to overcome Cyclone.
Yeah, I think SK is, because based on Cyclone's early game plays, I think they're going to let SK get to the late game.
All right, let's head on to the Halcyon Fold yet again, ladies and gentlemen, with Jaws and Excoundrel.
Thank you very much, guys. And can Cyclone push this to a game number 3? If they win this one, they will. When they do that, they will obviously overtake SK in the ladder. But we'll have to wait and find out. And one pick I always love seeing, Waldemar picking up the Baron.
Yeah, it definitely gives them that late game out, especially against a team that doesn't really have any reliable engage, especially if a Crucible comes through, which you imagine it will. If that continues to, get a Crucible onto the pull from jetpacks, you really feel like there's very little way that SK can actually touch this Baron in the late game. So there's definitely that late game timer here for Cyclone, but a CP Kestrel is very good at shoving and pushing an advantage, especially getting turrets down early as well. Looks like Cyclone looking to be aggressive here, though, especially Radha, who maybe is looking to go and see if he can get away some of those back camps, although he'll find that unfortunately they have not yet spawned.
There's nothing there to be had, unfortunately. Jetpacks is going to make his way to the lane, just facing off against PT Lamb right now, literally face-checking each other. And he's going to hit the level 2 first, so he looks like he's going to back off. And Waldemar maybe having a bit of a struggle in the early game, and I can kind of see where Radhar's going to come into this. They need to make sure he gets that late game, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see Cavalifer actually going for some armor, light armor early on here. Doesn't want to get shoved, though, those long-range basic attacks coming up from Valdemar too readily. But he is going to be going down that weapon power Ringo, which can be very abusive in the laning phase. So we've got a fight, though. Looks like there is a
Radha, he's going to jump on Tyrus, but Tyrus is going to say thank you for jumping in my jungle. Going to pick himself up a kill. SK Gaming is going to take first blood. PT Lamb is going to have to back out pretty quickly, as he does have jetpacks chasing him. But wow, a bit of Radha just a little bit too aggressive. Did not really expect the damage from Tyrus.
Yeah, you often see petals get picked into Finns, because especially once they finish their Frostburn, it's very easy to just run at a Finn, and because he's such a slow hero, it's so easy to just then have the Munions slow him consistently, make him a very easy target for Baron to stack on with the breaking point if that's where he chooses to go, and obviously then you can stack up your Broken Myth very easily when you hit that Spider Spike. So generally a lot of people tend to pick the Petal into Finn for that reason, because he's just such an easy target for the Munions to allow stacking to happen. But again, like Sweet said, the siege here from SK is really good. You can have Finn be that aggressive front line. You can soak up the damage. You can try and provide that shielding to that sieging members of the Cavalifer and Tyras. And then you have the weapon power Ringo and the CP Kestrel. Those glimmer shots and the twirling silver allow them to do a lot of damage in a very short space of time if they get any opportunity to land those kind of basic attacks and glimmer shots onto the turrets. So this is SK, if they get that advantage, even if they pick up 1 or 2 kills, they have a real shot at just running through this lane and demolishing turrets.
Yeah, I think, Radhar's going to have to kind of pay a little bit more attention to the lane. He's been invading so aggressively over and over again, just trying to find any distinct advantage. Has got a couple of CS lead over Tyras right now, but, I mean, we've seen what he can do in the lane to that turret, and like you said, if they do manage to push that one out first as well, Radhar's going to be very restrictive, or restricted even, where he can actually invade.
Well, I think he's looking for a 1v1 versus the Kestrel as well, because remember, a little bit like Sky, in the fact that the Munions block the forward barrage. The Munions also block the glimmer shots, so as long as you're not getting hit by that
doesn't block those glimmer shots.
Nope,
Wow.
Doesn't. Yeah, try blocking that, buddy. That was a great snipe by Tyras. Now that it's maybe even going to get this first turret of the game, and all Radha can do is take away the backs once more. But again, this is just money going on to Radha, but it is global gold going into SK's pocket. Again, another 4-minute turret, exactly as Suijay said, looking for the early push. This is a very early siege composition, and it's going to put lots of pressure onto Baron now as well.
Yeah, that guy, he has to be able to scale up. Hasn't obviously finished his first item just yet, but Cavalifer picking up that Sorrow Blade now. So that's going to be a lot of damage in his back pocket, and Waldemar is going to have to play so passively now, and Radha is going to have to influence the lane, at least for the moment, because if Waldemar gets pushed in any further, they're going to have some stellar wave control in order for them to actually kind of hold the wave around here, for him to actually scale up into the late game. PT Lamb, where do you think he should kind of prioritize right now? Should he be with Radha or with Waldemar in the lane? Like, this
it's very difficult, actually, Jaws, the way that you bring that up, because it speaks to the very volumes of win conditions that Cyclone have, right? And how strong those particular win conditions are. That's a great route, though.
That is a great route and a great Githim wall alike. Cavalifer is going to get the fountain popped on him, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough as Baron picks up 1 kill. Jetpacks is all on his own in a 1v3 situation. Radha almost falling to the quibble, but Waldemar is going to finish that one up with an ace. Cyclone may have just found themselves back in this game.
I was just about to touch on the fact that because Radha has been taking so much of the jungle away and Tyras has been stuck in lane sieging, Radha's got a 3-level advantage on him. Radha has had full reign of this jungle for the entire time. So if they could force a fight, you have this Petal that is so strong right now. And Tyras now has got to somehow claw back some gold, somehow claw back some levels here, because right now Radha's running away with it. That was an engage that really shouldn't have happened, but PT Lamb kind of caught Tyras off guard. And that was a great start for Cyclone to try and find their way back in. You know, I actually think when you ask the question of should he be with Voldemar, should he be with PT Lamb, given the level advantage now that Radha has, Voldemar can probably sit and clear waves as this Baron. And you can go roaming with Radha. You can try and find picks, try and find engages, try and find kills in the jungle, continue to pressure Tyrus, continue to steal his backs, because you now have this massive advantage that you can push with the Petal being just so far ahead. And a Petal that is ahead could be so oppressive to deal with as well.
Yeah, I mean, has got that Frostburn, just picked up an infusion for himself as well, so can use that in the next fight where possible. Tyrus has the Shatterglass, so he's doing a lot of upfront damage, but like you mentioned, those levels are just so big for Radha right now, just providing a lot of that upfront damage. In fact, 3 levels now as he just ticks over to level 8. This is pretty big, and that real early aggression, those early camp takeaways from Radha has just paid absolute dividends for them in their team fights.
Yeah, well, SK were playing that game of trying to shut down Baron, trying to siege lane, trying to take their advantages in that respect, and kind of leaving Petal to his own devices. But you've got to give massive credit to Radha. He completely exploited the fact that the jungle was completely free for him. You've also got to look at the fact that SK now, they can't shove lane as easily, because now Tyrus has got to be so conscious about taking his jungle camps that suddenly his rotations have become going back to the jungle, taking the camps, then heading to lane. And if the lane is set up for a siege, that's a great position. But if it's not, you have to then set the lane up for a siege. It makes SK's game plan so much slower. And you know what a slow game plan suits? It suits a Baron. This is a great situation for Cyclone. Look at this as well. You know, they're still trying to put the advantage. Oh, that's a stun for
Wardemar. Whoa, jump jets away. Lance does miss the impale. Tyrus is going to have to pop those boots to try and get away. That was very close. Nice pick off. Iron Cannon is coming down though. 1 shot, 1 kill does hit PT Lamb. They're going to find jetpacks in this brush. He's going to give fortified help to everybody, and that's going to help them pick up a kill. Kavalifar on the back lines was able to pick that up with the twirling silver. Tyrus not yet finished though. Wardemar taking 2 glimmer shots. And he is going to jump jets away once more. Stealth coming in for Tyrus. This is so scary. Oh, that was so close. Wardemar just getting away.
Chose the wrong brush. Voldemar backed in such a risky location, but what it has now allowed is SK to get some levels back. Radha has only got 1 level over Tyrus right now, and they're going to get the gold mine in their favor as well, unless PT Land can find something. But look at this, Kavalifar doing some zoning work by himself. SK finding that momentum again. There was a slowing down of the game, like you said, that it kind of played into the favor of this Baron. Baron, who is now sitting at, well, just 1.5 items, still quite a way off his big item spikes of 3 items completed. And SK need to continue to mount this pressure. They've got the backs they can take. They can then group in lane and start to pressure the turret. They can look for fights. They kind of leveled things out now that Radha isn't that scary. Radha's kind of back to where he was previously now. But Cyclone looking to be aggressive as a trio right now. And they're trying to exploit the fact that they can go in and take these camps for pretty much free when they see the Finn and the Ringo in lane.
I mean, that turret up in the lane as well is around half HP for SK, so when they do end up sieging it, and if they do manage to out-rotate SK, that will go down in an absolute flash. A big pickup as well, PT Lamb did eventually buy in the item shop the Crucible, so it's going to be really massive coming into jetpacks, because that forced accord, if that manages to hit anybody from Cyclone, that's going to be pretty much team fight over. Cyclone trying to look for a little something here, just setting up a death bush. Jetpacks is going to walk in here. They might find someone. Impale from PT Lamb goes a little wide. Jetpacks taking a lot of damage, though. He's still in the front line, ends up going down. PT Lamb almost falling as well, but they're going to jump on Kavalifar. He falls to Baron. Tyrus gets a nice stun, but it's not going to be enough. Cyclone are just going to chase, and in fact, they're just going to go back to the lane. That lane is very pushed,
he gets the
though.
snipe.
Oh, 1 shot, 1 kill. I'm going to interrupt myself as Radar picks him up in the end, though, spotting the very stationary Kestrel. 1 shot, 1 kill comes out. Does nail Wardemar.
Very clever piece of sorry if anyone heard the giant crack in my microphone, by the way. I actually just hit my head on my own microphone.
Too
I have
excited.
no idea how that happened. That was a really clever setup by Cyclone. In other moments, we often call it the Fnatic Death Brush, but that is almost what they did in that situation. They set up a little bit of forward vision, and then SK knew something was wrong. They hadn't seen anybody from Cyclone on the map. They had to be aware of something going on. That's why you saw Finn check that scout trapper. As soon as that happened, that was a commit by PT Lamb. So much damage then went down onto the Finn. He couldn't escape because Petal is very good at sticking to a Finn. They managed to burst him out, and then obviously Petal being so aggressive because Kavalifar just got killed.
Oh, man. Wow, that damage coming out from PT Lam and Radha, that was disgusting. Jetpacks, you have to back off, does use the boots. They're going to chase Tyrus though, does have to use the boots as well. Jetpacks going fairly low, very, very slow, chunky Finn will end up falling. Tyrus is going to use the active camo to get away, not a problem, but Cyclone really picking up the pace now. 8 and 4 on the board, still at a goal deficit, and they will be able to just push forward in this lane if they can get wave priority.
Yeah, I'm going to get that sentry as well. It didn't look like PT Lam was a target for Tyras, but Cavalifar has to be so careful. Radha is miles ahead in terms of his damage output. No shielding prioritized by anybody yet, despite the fact that Radha got so far ahead. Very close to getting a pick off there was Tyras, but not the sense. But you don't expect a CP Kestrel to go defense, by the way, Jaws, because you generally tend to keep a big range, so much so that you should be avoiding most of the damage with your range. But Cavalifar has gone a little bit of armor from that light armor he picked up at the start, but no shielding. So if Radha can get aggressive positions, he can make aggressive trampolines happen. Both Cavalifar and Tyras are sitting ducks for these exploding munions and the damage output that they're going to have regardless. But look at the build path for Cavalifar. This is a little bit interesting, and it lends to the fact that we're expecting a very burst-heavy composition from SK. They're looking to blow up a target before Cyclone even have a chance to react, because this is a Tyrant's Monocle Tornado Trigger Sorrowblade build. This is immediate impact. This is within the first few basic attacks, you're looking to get all the damage that you need to be done. And the fact that they're double infused right now, you know that SK's game plan revolves around just destroying somebody. Haven't yet seen Jetpacks manage to make an aggressive hook happen, but with Crucible up, you wouldn't expect that they're going to have major impact right now.
It's going to be a fairly big cooldown for him to use. I mean, realistically, SK right now, they have got the turret advantage. That's the point, right? But the issue is the amount of times that we've seen Cyclone just pick one of them off, two of them off. It's absolutely insane, and the damage follow-up from them is absolutely massive. SK, they're still trying to push onto this turret, and you can see how much damage now that Cavalifar and Tyras are doing. A couple of glimmer shots and a couple of autos from Cavalifar will just chunk that turret to about half HP. Cyclone, though, still just kind of holding back, waiting for that perfect engage.
SK need to maintain their range. They've got a double Shatterglass Kestrel. Double Shatterglass, really, Kestrel, one of the only CP carries you can make this work. Designed specifically to try and burst squishy targets, as SK try to do just that. What an insane piece of damage coming out there onto Voldemar and PT Lam. But it's designed specifically to burst double squishies, and that's what you've got here from Cyclone. Both Petal and Baron double squishies. And speaking of Baron, that's a Tension Bow Baron build.
Oh boy, that's not even in the early game either, because he got Sorrowblade first. Well, there's going to be a nice route onto for Cavalifar. He's going to be able to kite back though. Turret did end up falling. Cyclone may be looking to chase them up here. I cannot see it, my friend. You're going to have to take over.
Oh my word, PT Lam actually picks up the kill. Now Jetpack's going down. There was so much damage done to Cyclone before, but Tyra's now the only member of SK left. He's setting up an active camo. PT Lam knows it's there. Will just walk over as he does get stunned and blown up in it, but it's not enough damage to deal with the lance. And now Cyclone are going to take their first turret of the game. Even with Voldemar walking into an active camo, there was not enough damage from SK. Radha is just too monstrous. Radha is a beast right now, and Cavalifar got absolutely torn apart.
Oh man. Well, I would see. I'm just reconnecting briefly. You have to give me a couple of seconds. But so what's kind of Cyclone's gameplay now? Because they have game plan even because they have got two turrets fallen for them, and they're almost completely open in their base.
Yeah, but, you know, they're winning these fights, and now Voldemar is nearly at 4 items, despite the fact he's gone Tension Bow, which I think a lot of people have been considering Tension Bow to have a little bit more longevity in terms of game influence now, because it's got a slightly increased flat pierce, and if you can continuously proc the Tension Bow by having a low cooldown ability like the Porcupine Mortar, maybe it becomes worth it. So, you know, potentially, especially against the Finn with a high HP target or whatever, maybe. I still think I prefer the straight up critical strike here, Jaws. This has got no critical strike from Voldemar right now, but I guess in some way, you know, it exploits low armor values as well. You know, you're not really shredding through armor with it. You're just doing lots of damage to sort of little to no armor values. It means you might be able to burst Tyra's better, but I often just think critical strike's better in that situation. But Voldemar seems to be liking Tension Bow on his carries, despite the ones that scale into the late game, so we'll have to see how he makes it work.
Yeah, we will do. I'm still trying to connect. So
Oh, that's
we will
fine.
be
I'll carry on.
very
We've got a
short.
big fight
Yeah,
here.
you do it.
Forticore comes through. Cavalifar tried to go in there. The crits are coming through. There is the first fountain. Is it enough? Because PT Lam escapes with just an inch of life. But look at this. SK lose Finn. They still have healthy carries. But again, Cyclone able to waltz out with an inch of their life and somehow come out on top in these team fights. Are we still waiting for you, Jules?
Unfortunately, yes. I'm not entirely sure what's going on.
That's fine.
I'm
It's
sure.
probably just restart whatever device you're running with.
I'm on it. No worries, man.
I will keep the viewers entertained with some,
Oh, well, thank
some
you.
maybe rendition of Bark or I don't know. I'll
Your
just
voice
talk
is
about the
very
game.
soothing, so
I'll
you
probably
can just
talk about the game or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe do that. Anyway, SK now. They're setting up around the Kraken area. They've got good vision here. But unfortunately, Cyclone just seems to have that superior teamfight presence, and PT Lam seems to be able to waltz in, take these scout traps off the table. Jetpacks now has picked up a contraption, and I guess that's specifically because they need to get a lot of scout trap presence down. They want to try and combat the contraption that PT Lam's brought out as well, so the best way to counter a contraption is a contraption, but we've got a big pull! That was a huge pull, and now PT Lam is going to be the first to fall in the team fight. Cavalifar picks up the second with an excellent snipe from Tyras, and now SK somehow, somewhere, win this team fight, and they're going to get the Kraken as well. That was an excellent pull from Jetpacks. It caught PT Lam completely off guard. And now Radha is trying to be the hero in this situation, maybe trying to get some Monument explosions to try and steal Kraken, but Cavalifar will ward him away with a Hellfire Brew, and now SK should be able to take this Kraken off the map. They should be able to push their advantage, and the Kraken will become unleashed. SK need to do that again, though. That shouldn't have happened with the Crucible. That should not have happened against a Finn when you have a Crucible, but Jetpacks just managed to time it so it caught PT Lam off guard, and suddenly it was Suijay's like a god at this kind of thing. Suddenly it was exactly as he said. As soon as Voldemar has to be defensive with his jump, he becomes a sitting duck for this SK composition. Radha had to defensively use his trampoline. Suddenly all of the aggression from that Cyclone roster, in a roster that can put out a whole lot of aggression, didn't work out. And now, actually, it's Cavalifar's the one that's caught out as a great impale comes out from PT Lam. The active camos are down and Jetpacks will be the target. It looks like it's Tyras now trying to escape for his life. PT Lam and the gang will just settle with 2. That was a really, really awkward positioning error from Cavalifar, who does not have a reflex block. He's building exactly the same as Baron. He's gone full damage. He's got another Turret's Monocle on top of his Tornado trigger. And again, he got caught out by the impale. If you're not going to build a reflex block, you can't position yourself so that you're going to get caught out by that kind of thing. There's no Crucible for Jetpacks. There's no reflex blocks on any of your carries. If Lance gets close enough to an impale and he lands an impale on a target, that's probably a one team fight for Cyclone. It's very easy to follow up on that kind of engage. So if you're not going to run reflex blocks, you have to make sure you are absolutely on top of your positioning. Cavalifar there was a little bit too aggressive. They just probably didn't predict the fact that Radha was in a flanking position. They didn't quite have the vision control of the lower side of the Cyclone jungle. And unfortunately, Cavalifar got caught out by a great impale from PT Lam. And now Cyclone seem to have evened it up once more. Gold lead slightly in their advantage. This is another close game between these 2 titans of the European VGA. Pretty insane sort of series that we're coming to shape up here, because if Cyclone win this, then it becomes incredibly close again in this final game. Are you back, my boy?
I'm back.
Oh, there we go.
We back. We're in the game, and Clockwork actually picked up from Tyras. I literally got in, he picked up Clockwork. I was like, damn, nice build coming out from him. And I'm always kind of interested to see what kind of build path Kestrels do go. And you're right, these 2 titans are clashing right now, 3rd and 4th on the ladder. I just can't believe how close these games have been, honestly.
Yeah, and also you've got to look at the build that there's no Broken Myth for Tyras, so he's not expecting these fights to have to go to a point where he's stacking up a Broken Myth in any way, shape, or form. He's gone Clockwork, Double Shattered Glass, Piercing Shard, because he wants flat burst damage. Look at this, though. Radha's picked up a full metal... Oh, I need to stop saying full metal. A metal jacket. It's not the film. It's just a metal jacket. It's picked up the metal jacket here for Radha. That is completed, so he'll have a lot of defense against Cavalifar, who has got no armor shred, by the way. No tension bow, no bone saw. Looks like PT Lam going in. He will land an impale. Again, there is the target. Well, I forgot.
I'm back in the game. Let me do it. Wardemar's going to pick up 1 kill. At least Radar's going to find it. Wardemar's going to jump Jets forward. Tyra's in a lot of trouble. And now Jetpacks is in a fair bit as well. Cyclone just surrounding them. 1 shot, 1 kill. It's going to come out and actually find PT Lab, but it's going to be cleaned up. Wardemar's going to pick up the ace. Cyclone finally finding their feet here. 16-7. They're just going to march it down this lane. I think they're going to take at least 1 turret.
They're going to take at least 1 turret here. That was a really, really good move. I'm sorry, Jaws. I completely forgot you were back almost. I was so used to just jumping in and doing it myself. I was like, oh yeah, you're back. You can do it for me. And I just messed up. Anyway, they're going to get at least 1. They might get 2 here. The rest of SK should be able to then regenerate and recuperate and potentially try and contest this Kraken, which I think will be a key objective in the next few minutes. But again, you have to be looking at Kavalifar and Tyras and saying your positioning. You have to be aware that war treads into an Impale is a thing. PT Lamb played that exactly right, by the way. Knows that if he lands an Impale on Kavalifar, the team fight's over, probably. In almost sort of most situations. If he lands an Impale, it means it's a free Githian wall. It means that both Radhar and Voldemar get free basic attacks onto a key target. I think you just have to be a little bit more aware that that is a massive weakness of the way that you are choosing to play these team fights. And Radhar, I've got to say, PT Lamb is playing it great. PT Lamb knows exactly how to play these team fights. He knows exactly where their win conditions for them lie. And he's very happy to just run at them and find those positions. That's another great pull.
Doesn't need to run at them when you get hooked in. 1 shot, 1 kill is going to come out. Radhar falls to a below half HP. Waldemar, though, trading up a lot of that damage. Jetpack's going really low and an aggressive jump there from Waldemar. Is he going to be able to find one? I'm not sure because Kavalifar's just eating him up in the backline. He ends up going down. Waldemar's going to jump Jets forward. A massive crit will secure the kill. And Ace as well comes through. My goodness, Waldemar with the Ace triple kill for Cyclone. They may just tie this series up at 1 apiece. This Baron composition has worked out absolute wonders for them.
Yeah, and absolutely. They managed to take it to the later portion of the game. SK weren't able to run away with this big burst composition that they were trying to play. And again, it was a fight of Ringo got impaled, Ringo got Atlas Pauldron. Suddenly that is a dead carry. Not even in the sense that he's dead physically, he just has no damage output. That was just that's exactly what we expected to see following. They're not even going to be able to win. I think Voldemar went down to the turret.
Yeah, he died. Like, he straight up died to that second turret. They could have ended there, I think. I mean, they had so much damage on Waldemar, so actually, SK Gaming, they're still in this game.
They're going for the Kraken.
Why not? Waldemar's like 20 seconds away, mate. He is long gone. Radhar's back in the base. He's going to be able to get there. I think they're just going to be able to chew through this one as well. Look at Tyrus' damage.
Yeah, it's the damage from Kavalifar and Tyras is really strong, but they have 10 seconds to be able to capitalize. It didn't look like Jetpacks was in any mood to come down for this straight away. He was up there in the lane waiting for this one out. They're going to have to go super quick if they want to make this happen. That Atlas Pauldrons and that Impale onto a no reflex block Kavalifar is basically ruining these teamfights. Look at this. They are not taking this risk. I think that was a risk you potentially had to take. Jetpacks was not in position. Kavalifar and Tyras wanted to go for it, but they weren't able to commit. And suddenly now, they've handed it on a plate to Cyclone. They've handed it straight over.
Well, PT Lamb is just standing in this brush waiting for someone to come in here. Kraken is going to actually just reset, just make sure that capture bar stays nice and high. Cyclone, they're going to have to back off here. It does look like SK Gaming are going to try and at least contest this one. I think they need to. Both teams very hesitant to
they're running
try
damage.
Anything. I don't know, man. Cyclone, they might just have caught SK Gaming out here. Kavalifar using that Hellfire Brew, just find 2. Uncannon comes through. That's going to be a nice force to core block. And Kavalifar still trying to do a lot of damage. Quibble onto 2. Kavalifar, this could be his time. A nice quibble as well. Waldemar has found himself 1, but he's also found himself Tyrus. He might just get taken out quickly.
Oh, he gets taken out!
He finally gets taken down. Radhar almost finishes Tyrus, but
oh my god!
Will almost finish him. Jetpacks is trying to chase him. There goes the Glimmer Shot. SK Gaming, they find 2, and PT Lamb is going to get taken down eventually as well.
They're going to win! They're going to win the game, Jaws!
And they might just come through and win it.
I think they are! Waldemar dying to the turret has thrown the game for Cyclone. And now SK are going to capitalize and take it. After some excellent positioning from Kavalifar, we talked about exactly what he needed to do to win a team fight. He put so much distance between himself and Lance made the choice to go for Tyras, where the Atlas Pauldrons weren't going to be as effective, if not effective at all. And then he ran to the back line and made himself a nuisance. Voldemar jumped in because he wanted to escape from Ringo. Tyras blew him up. And then Ringo had the jump on both PT Lam and Radha, and they played that last fight exactly as needed to. Delivered the burst to the backline, made it very difficult for PT Lam to know who to focus. PT Lam felt Tyra's was the real threat, but realistically it was Kavalifar doing all that work, being threatening in the backline, and Atlas Polders was not going to get used. But that was Cyclone's game. That was Cyclone's game. And some carelessness at the end handed it and a semi-final place on a silver platter to SK.
They were so confident as well in that last team fight, and my goodness, SK Gaming, they will take this series at a 2-0. What a devastating defeat coming through for Cyclone. We will jump straight over to the analyst desk, however, and they're going to break down this game a little bit further.
Holy guacamole, what a game. Such a turnaround. Actually, maybe not holy guacamole. I know you don't like avocado bacon.